Hey, welcome to Two Doctors Homestead. My name's Daniel, and I want to talk about prepping, right? We're going to do a bit of a how-to prepare, call it the Ultimate Prepper's Survival Guide. Not that I'm saying I'm the ultimate prepper. There's certainly people that know a lot more about prepping than I do, and you got to mind the turkeys in the background. They're going to jump in occasionally like that when they have something to say. So I'm a second-generation prepper, homesteader, and wanted to share, right? We're doing these videos to share information, get people interested in prepping, maybe tell people how to prepare. The more people that are prepared, the less people that will panic in the event of any kind of major emergency, Shtf or anything like that. And if you look at everything going on in the world right now, we're closer to a major Shtf than ever. So not to go too deep into that, but I want to talk about prepping. Let's go over the basics and maybe show a few things that you might want to think about, things you might need as a prepper, right, to be more prepared. So there's some terminology, some rules that we use in prepping, and the first one we're going to talk about is two is one, which means have backups, have redundancy, right? You don't want to just have one pocket knife or one knife that could break, it could get dull, you could lose it. You want to have two, right? Same thing with anything, any device, any tool, anything like that that might be important that you might need, is make sure you have redundancy. Make sure you have a plan B, therefore two is one. So anything we're talking about categorically, whether it's food, water, shelter, anything like that, always have a backup plan. So that's two as one. The next thing we're going to jump into that I think is important for focusing your preps is the rule of threes. Certainly we're all on a budget, and I see a lot of people new to prepping trying to get into prepping, and they don't know what to do. They buy a bunch of guns and ammo, and they say, okay, I'm prepared. Well, that's not really the rule of threes, right? So we'll talk about the rule of threes. The first rule of three is 3 minutes, right? So it's 3 minutes without air is the general rule of threes. So with everything going on, a gas mask is not a bad idea. This is a basic Israeli gas mask. If there happens to be a train derailment in your area, chemical spill, chemical weapons attack, whatever, maybe a fire, hopefully nothing ever happens, but if they did, air is important. Air should be your first thing to think about, and a gas mask of some sort might help you out, might save your life. So gas mask is part of the rule of threes. Next item on the rule of threes here is a tourniquet, right? So 3 minutes without air. We could also say 3 minutes without blood, right? So if there's an injury, any situation, first 3 minutes is anyone bleeding? Are there any major injuries? Can you breathe? 3 minutes without air, 3 minutes without blood, and you might not get a full 3 minutes. And sorry, I got a bunch of stuff stacked up around me, so I might be moving around a little bit. So second rule of three after 3 minutes is 3 hours. So you made it through 3 minutes, 3 hours without shelter, right? And this is, you won't survive 3 hours without shelter. So there's some basic shelter options. This is a low-end tent I got from Walmart. It's just a basic four-person dome tent. Any tent is better than no tent. This is a little bit heavy, was not super expensive. If you get a bigger, cheaper, more expensive tent, lighter is what I meant. The more expensive are generally going to be lighter, more portable, easier to carry, right? So look at a tent, you want some shelter, you want some portable shelter in addition to a tent. Something like a sleeping bag is always a good idea. This is a queen size sleeping bag. There's a lot of sleeping bags available. You can get them at Walmart, you can get them at Line, you can get high-end sleeping bags, you can get basic cheap sleeping bags, but you need that emergency shelter, right? So 3 hours with a shelter, whether it's a storm, bad weather, whatever's going on. Focus on breathing, focus on not bleeding, focus on your shelter, right? So that's 3 hours. Then we go into 3 days, and you say 3 days without water, so your next prep should be water. This is a very basic emergency drinking water packet, water filtration devices, life straws, Sawyer minis, chemical treatment, water storage, boil your water, whatever you're going to do. You want to have a water plan, right? Have your water available. You need water. You need water before you need food. You'll dehydrate before you starve to death. So think water, right? Generally right now water's cheap. It's plentiful, it's available, you can get plenty of water out there. Think about how you want to store water, and then how you're going to find water when your water stores run out, right? No one can store enough water to last the rest of their life, right? Water's heavy, takes up a lot of space, so you're going to want some water collection, water purification, options like that. So certainly water is the next rule of threes. Within 3 days, you're going to need water. And then 3 weeks without food. And once again, this depends on you, depends on your situation. So this is emergency ration bars. So this is emergency food. I think it has a 5-year shelf life. We do the Prepper Pantry Pick of the Week videos every week. There's a ton of options for food, but make sure you have food stored away. So that is your basic rule of threes, right? 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter, 3 days without food, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. Apparently cannot speak today. So that covers sort of your initial basics. Then you have the C's, and I've got some of the C's here. One is container, so the 5 C's, you could say the 10 C's. So container is certainly a C. In this case, we're calling the container a backpack. It's good to have a backpack, whether it's your get-home bag, your bug-out bag, your range bag, whatever bag it is. You want a sturdy backpack. Mole is good. I like Mole because you can attach various things. So I got a pouch in front for my flashlight, pouch in front for the tourniquet, pouch on the side for water bottle. So if you have Mole, which is the little hoops, it makes it easy to expand out, customize your bag, attach other things to it. But in terms of the C's, right, the C's of survival, container could be your water bottle, something you'd want somewhere you can boil water in, carry water, store water. You want somewhere to carry your gear. So one of the C's is container, right? You want to have some kind of a container. Next C is cutting tool, and I want to jump into a couple cutting tool options here. All right, so this is a great knife. Big fan of buck. So buck knife is a good cutting tool. This is a nice heavy-duty outdoor knife, right? I've used this for processing animals. You can do a lot of stuff with it, and buck has a great lifetime warranty, right? If it ever breaks or anything like that at any point, then you can send it in, and they'll send you another one. Another cutting tool I like is my hatchet. I'm going to use this for a lot of processing animals and that kind of thing, cutting wood, but a hatchet is always great to have. So another cutting tool option, hatchet, an axe, a saw, anything like that. Those are all good cutting tools. I see a lot of big knife collectors. Just be aware, knives are heavy, axes are heavy, right? When you're putting a bag together, you can only carry so many with you at one time. That weight will get you. Ounces is pounds, pounds is pain. But if you are carrying your cutting tools around, a little knife sharpener is not a bad idea. This is for sharpening something like a serrated knife. You've got the carbide, you've got ceramic, different tensions. So it's not maybe as good as a whetstone. Some people don't know how to use a whetstone. So a basic knife sharpener goes a long way with your cutting tools. And this, of course, another cutting tool. So some are going to be EDC, some are going to be something you're going to put in your bag, take camping, whatever it is. You're going to want to have a cutting tool with you. So certainly in the rule of C's. Combustion is important, right? You need to be able to make fire. Something like a fire starter is useful to have, right? This is a fancy fire starter here, right? Ferro rod for scratching. You can do matches or even just a basic lighter, right? Basic lighter. You want to have a combustion tool, some way to start a fire, to keep yourself warm, cook your food, boil your water. You can use for signaling. Fires can have all sorts of purposes. You want to have a couple options for starting a fire, right? That's one of the C's. Combustion device, and then candling. We have a couple options here for candling devices, which is your flashlight. So we have an actual flashlight here, tactical flashlight. I like this one. It's a good brand. Take it with me, nice and bright, adjustable, slides in and out for different light patterns. Something like a headlamp is also good for hands-free operation. You're going to want to have a couple options. Once again, 2 is 1, and then this has a flashlight on it as well. This is a green flashlight, and generally green flashlights are going to be better for hunting. They say some of the animals can't see the green light. So candling device, have multiple options for your light for any of them. 2 is 1 on any of it. Other things like cordage, cloth sail needle, cotton bandana, compass, those are all great to have within the C range. Something else you want to look at is communication. How are you going to keep in track of the outside world, Shtf or anything like that? So this is ear protection with a FRS walkie-talkie built in. It has Vox capabilities, so you can hear and talk, right? So it's electronic, which actually blocks out things like gun noises, and it also has a communication ability. It has a walkie-talkie built in. This is just a basic Baofeng UV5R radio. This is GMRS. It will work with the FRS on that lower channel. So GMRS covers the GMRS channels and can talk on the FRS channels. So communication is important, but beyond radios, beyond walkie-talkies, things like that, basic radio is not a bad idea. This is a weather radio, gets AM, FM, and all the weather channels. So you want to know if a storm's coming, if a tornado's coming, right? We live in tornado country, so we got to keep an eye out for tornadoes. So as part of your communication, a radio is a good idea, right? So next thing I want to jump into is the medical supplies. You want to have medical supplies. We showed the tourniquet as part of the rule of threes. You want to stop bleeding. Got a tourniquet in here. We got the Israeli bandages in here. You want to have some medical supplies available in case anyone gets injured. You got your basic Israeli bandage, another tourniquet in here. And then this is kind of a fun little kit. It's just a trauma pack, right? It has some clotting agents and whatnot in it, quick clot, trauma pads, nitrate gloves, and all that. So it's a good addition. If you want to have a first aid kit, you want to have some medical supplies available in case anyone gets injured for any reason, anything going on. And then you can kind of go to the next level beyond your first aid is something like emergency antibiotics, right? Jace sells emergency antibiotics, so you can get your antibiotics as well as a guidebook and how you might want to use them and what you'd need them for. So you might want to think about emergency antibiotics along with your medical supplies. Something else to look at is power. Something like batteries, right? AA's, AAA's, they can have a pretty good shelf life, but if there's a blackout, if there's a Shtf or something like that, you're going to want to have plenty of batteries around to run your hearing protection and your flashlights and all your other great tools, your radios and whatnot. Batteries important, so make sure you have extra batteries on hand. So the last category I think I want to talk about is personal protection. So this is soft plate. This is 3A, which is good for handgun rounds. You can do hard plate if you want. That's certainly heavier and more obvious. This is going to be low key. You put a sweater on, something like that. You're going to be a little more gray man. And certainly, if you hadn't heard the term gray man before, it's the idea of blending in, right? You don't want to stand out. If there's a bunch of people in hoodie sweaters, you don't want to be a guy in camo with a tactical vest and an AR. You want to blend in, right? And that's going gray, and certainly would recommend gray man for that reason. You don't want to stand out. You don't want to look like a target, right? You don't want to run around, like this if no one has anything. You want to blend in with the environment. You don't want to stand out. But first thing on personal protection, I'd say is some kind of body armor. You can take it to the next step if you want. Ballistic helmet is certainly not a bad idea. It's a level 3. The weight's not that bad. It's nice and comfortable. Not gonna hook it too much, but something you could think about adding to your preps is that ballistic helmet. You don't want to bump your head. If you're doing home repairs or something like that, you wouldn't want to bump your head. So this is a ballistic helmet. Might be worth thinking about in terms of an investment. And I know we kind of escalated quickly, but we'll jump back a step. Gloves also count for personal protection, right? Do you have good gloves? You want to protect your hands. And then we already talked about the gas mask also would fall under personal protection. You got to be able to breathe. And of course you got to be able to wear it all, right? That's a lot of equipment to be wearing around. The next step on personal protection is something like a carry. This is my concealed carry. Do have a license and self-defense insurance, so those are things you want to look at. Certainly you want to look at the laws of your area, whether it's bulletproof vest or concealed carry, right? What are the requirements? What are the laws? You want to follow that as much as possible. And then of course there's something like this, which is just great for hunting or maybe home defense, right? You want to, anytime you're talking about self-defense tool, home defense tool, right? You're either going to be hunting, you're self-defense, you're maybe enjoy shooting, you might be a target shooter, skeet shooter, something like that. But you want to have options, you want to train, make sure you have insurance and that you know the laws in your area. So I hope that helps out, guys. Just wanted to hit on a lot of different items all at once, give you some ideas. So it's kind of an intro to prepping. If you're already a prepper, you might be something you're not thinking about. Certainly now's the time, right? Now's the time to be prepared. Things are getting a little crazy in the world. So as always, thank you for watching, and we appreciate you.